This is going to be a fun one because we are bringing back the Enneagram into this content or this training on types of content for each Enneagram type. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that you are limited to just the single piece of content, but it just kind of gives you, again, kind of the energy behind these 9 different types of content. So we just spent a lot of time coming up with our core messaging, things that we want to say, how we want, or things that we want to share. We came up with the what. Now we're going to talk about the how of sharing this content. And I have 9 ideas for you, broken down by Enneagram energy. So you are welcome to use all of these or none of them, but I thought it would be a fun way to kind of help you remember as we go through this list. So the first type of content is a listicle. I'm going to give you examples of each of these, but really quickly, Type 1s tend to be really task oriented. They like to check off the list. So we got the listicles here. Type 2s love to help people, give people value, want to be of service. So this type of content is going to be some sort of actionable tip, some sort of teaching. Type 3 is that role model, tends to be really inspiring, motivational. So some type of motivational content, a quote, a video, a reminder. Type 4s have this ability to be incredibly creative. We all can be creative in our own way. 4s are known for being creative. And so their type of content here is going to be something that's trending, and then how can you put your unique spin on it? So maybe it's talking about, I saw somebody do something to share their content through characters of Encanto, the new Disney movie. And it was so creative, right? Very 4 energy right there. Type 5, known as the observer. So you can share some type of observation content. What are you noticing? You don't have to be the expert on it. You don't have to necessarily know the ins and out, but what's a trend you're seeing? What's feedback that you're hearing, right? So as type 6, bringing their analytical energy, and what's something that you can break down for your audience? What is how to create a new course, how to write a book, how to be a pro at bookkeeping or accounting, what to know about creating wills and trusts, right? Whatever the thing is, how can you break it down using that 6 energy that is really great at taking complex ideas and topics and then distilling them down into easy bite-sized pieces of content for their audience. And then as a 7, who tends to be incredibly future focused, very visionary, maybe sharing some content that has some present versus future, what's possible, contrast there. The challenger is our 8. How can you bring some contrarian opinion? So everybody's saying, Instagram Reels is the place to be. Maybe you're a social media marketer and you're going to say, actually, I think you need to be on here or doing the exact opposite. We'll talk about a contrarian in just a second. And then lastly, type 9, who tends to, in that average range, have merged with so many other people that they kind of are out of touch with their own thoughts and opinions, maybe even feel a little bit invisible. So when they're asked to share their opinion, at first, they will absolutely have the ability to grow. They may not know what they stand for or what they think. So using that energy, we're going to take the content idea to reshare someone else's content, tag them in it, and then add a thought, add something that you liked as a way to recognize somebody else, expand your own network, and then have something to say without maybe coming up with a completely original idea right this very moment. So an example of the type 1 listicle is book creation or a book list. These are my own examples. Take what you like, leave what you don't. Add what's uniquely yours, I think is that Bruce Lee quote. So here I made 9 books to read over your morning coffee, right? You could do your top favorite courses, favorite podcasts, favorite software, all kinds of things. Now, type 2 is sharing an actionable resource. Here, I was talking about 4 free Enneagram resources that I had created. It was basically promoting 4 freebies that I had, but these could be any sort of resources or tips. Again, it could be a book list, but coming from a place of these are my top takeaways from this book. I have 5 takeaways that I'm going to share with you. Here is a helpful tip to help you get started creating your podcast, or to start podcast guesting, or to beef up your email list. Think about this. Like, what's a one meaty, helpful tip? It doesn't have to be a whole, blog about it, just one little tip. Type 3, here's an example of just kind of a thought-provoking question, a way to reframe something to kind of inspire, to motivate. Type 4 energy, something that I did was I did a fun play on when we had all those, when Richard Branson went into space, and I did a little Enneagram type, why you would go to space based on your Enneagram type. So added some creativity, some current events to that. Type 5, what am I observing? What am I seeing? I had talked about observing 5 courses that I had been through, what I liked about each of them, takeaways, why I might recommend them, who maybe they're not for. So observation, same thing with podcasts. I did a podcast list on that. Type 6, I had shared the science of selling on social media. And so I talked about the key things to think about when you're selling yourself, your services on social media. I tried to channel that 6, break it down to bite-sized pieces like the 6 is so good at. Type 7, here's a piece of content that I did about imagining even just 60 days from now. You'll be blown away by your progress, or in the same place, still thinking about the progress you could have made. The choice is yours. So that's kind of that here you are in the moment, but where you could be in the future type of 7 visionary, future focused energy. Type 8, contrarian. So taking advice or sayings, common themes that you hear a lot, and then what don't you agree about? What's something that you can kind of take that contrarian opinion on? And so one that I had was, you don't have to want to change the world. There's all this talk about wanting to change the world, and I'm saying, you don't have to want to change the world. What if you just want to live your life, have the best life that you possibly can? I think ultimately when you do that, you do end up changing the world without maybe the direct intention of doing that. There's also another woman I had to put on here because she is just the best example of this. Her name is Maggie Patterson. And on Instagram, I think it's Small Business Boss, and she has all kinds of contrarian content. Her posts are, all of them are contrarian, so thought-provoking, really makes you think and reassess. And then lastly, a type 9 energy is to, one thing that I did was shout out some of my past, course graduates of another program that I used to have. You could absolutely do that. That counts as content. It shows people what's possible for them. It recognizes your current students or your past students, and gives you a piece of content without you necessarily having to create some, life-changing opinion. Also, I put under here is a book review. So I like to draw, so I just happen to do this. You don't have to do it this way, but I did a drawing a recap of a book that I really enjoyed. In this case, it's called Attached. And I just did, I think it was 5 takeaways that I had from the book, and I just kind of drew out what those were. And again, it's not my thought, but I'm still giving value. I tagged the author. I actually, when I did this and in one other book, I ended up landing a podcast interview with the author of the book, Ian Gadd, who wrote Sex and the Enneagram. So you wouldn't do it with that intention, but just kind of fun. You never know, right? And so here you're not necessarily having to give a completely original opinion. You can give an opinion about a book that somebody already shared their original opinions on, what you thought about it, what your takeaways are, still adding value, creating content for your audience, still positioning you as a leader and getting you visible. So with that summary, which one will you try? So that's your fun work. Is maybe you've done a few of these already, so nothing new, but maybe there's one in here that it's like, oh, I hadn't really thought about doing the contrarian content, or, it's been a while since I made a listicle. Or, what is something fun? What's something that's trending that I could put my own unique spin on? So think about that. And you just have to pick one, right? You'll have this list in your back pocket, but just right now, what is one that you will commit to trying in the next week inside your content?